Well, thank you all so much for joining us today. My name is Drew Beasley, and I'm the USA Gap Year Fairs and Go Overseas Outreach and Events Coordinator. As you can see from all these pictures, I've had some fantastic opportunities to take time abroad and learn experientially. I've led hikes through our national parks, I've taught English in Prague, and I've hiked my way across South America. However, all of these experiences that you can see in these pictures all stemmed from one place, my gap year. My gap year was an incredibly transformative period in my life, as I know it has been for so many students that I've worked with over the years. Now, I'm so excited for you all to be here and spend your Tuesday night with us, learning a little bit about some of the opportunities that you may encounter, begin planning your gap year journey, hear from gap year experts that we have on this fantastic panel, and get the chance to ask questions. Before we do continue with this panel, I just want to mention that this event tonight is brought to you by Go Overseas, which you can think of as Yelp for experiential travel reviews. On Go Overseas, you can read from thousands of alumni reviews, learn about hundreds of programs, and even apply for our scholarship, which is live right now, a $5,000 scholarship, which you can apply towards your gap year if you're planning on taking it in the fall of 2023. More information to come about that later on. Wanted to bring your attention before we start to a couple of resources that you may find helpful. First of all, we have our Gap Matcher, and this is a tool that I absolutely love. All you have to do is enter in a little bit of information about yourself, where you want to go on your gap year, what you want to do, how far along you are in your journey, and our Gap Matcher will do the rest. Our Gap Matcher can help match you with hundreds of programs that are fantastic for your gap year. Next up, we've also got our digital guide. You can think of this as your virtual catalog to learn about all the gap year programs you can imagine. You can sort by program types to see if you want to volunteer, if you want to study film and media, take an internship, learn a language, and you can see all sorts of programs over on the digital guide. We should also mention that this is our second of 2 weeks of virtual events focusing on all sorts of fantastic programs. We've got 3 programs that offer academic and sustainable programs tonight. We'll be continuing tomorrow night and Thursday, as well as 4 panels next week, focusing on gap year programs in a whole variety of different topics. With that, I'm super excited to kick it off to our fantastic panelists. Tonight we have Jason Sarouhan of J2Guides, Initza Rodriguez of High Mountain Institute, Amber Latimer of Pacific Discovery, and Will Privet of Wilderness Adventures. Let's kick it over to Jason Sarouhan.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us tonight, and Drew for that amazing introduction. It's always such a pleasure to get to support the USA Gap Year Fairs and Go Overseas with these kind of events. As Drew mentioned, I'm Jason Sarouhan, and I'm one of the co-founders of J2Guides alongside my wife, Jane. Jane and I work as accredited gap year counselors or coaches or consultants. They're all interchangeable words. To say the same thing, we work as mentors for young adults mostly who are interested in taking gap time. And our role extends from helping students decide if this is the right opportunity for them at this time in their life, to then actually moving forward and setting their goals, ultimately helping them, direct them towards reputable and vetted programs and organizations, internships, volunteer experiences, skills courses, and lots of work exchange out there in the world. We love the work that we do. Both Jane and I each had really compelling gap year experiences when we were in our early 20s. One of mine was an Outward Bound instructor course that I did for 55 days after I graduated college. It's what set me on the path in experiential education. I ultimately graduated from that and immediately started guiding for several different organizations in California. And actually, this is a photo of me that came up recently in Facebook as a memory. It's a photo taken by my friend Eric, who was my climbing partner at the time. This is us on the top of Mount Sill, which is a 14,000-foot peak in the Sierra Nevada range in California. You can see a few funny things about this photo. One, there's snow everywhere, which there wasn't supposed to be on our climb, but there was. And also the sun is going down. We ended up getting stranded on the top of this peak due to a number of different challenges during the day and had to spend the night together, huddled, camping on our climbing rope in one emergency blanket, and of course survived, then lived to tell the tale. And one of the reasons why why we have the skill sets to do this and have this unexpected bivouac is because we had participated in really amazing wilderness and adventure-based programming that taught us the skills of how to do all of these things and do it well and do it safely. So I share this with you because it's a fun moment to be able to share a little bit about my history. After going on from guiding and instructing for a number of years, I went on to direct a gap year program. And then now for the last 13 years, Jane and I have worked as gap year counselors. Next slide, please, Drew. So just to briefly start for the evening, and so that we're all on the same page, the idea of gap year or gap time is becoming more and more a household term in the US, but what does it really mean to take gap year or take gap time? And so for us at J2Guides, we often think about it as really any intentional period of time that an individual takes to step out of his or her comfort zone and get out into the world to learn and to grow through meaningful hands-on experiences. And so notice that in that simple definition, it doesn't talk a lot about how long you have to go for. It doesn't talk about where you need to go or what time in your life you need to do this, or even what you need to go do. All of those aspects are really going to be unique to the person who's taking this gap time. So by way of example, some of the students that we're working with this year only have a summer of gap time in between when they graduate high school and say when they're going to begin college in the fall. But 3 months is a really amazing amount of time for you to be able to go on a compelling gap year-based experience. And actually several of the organizations on tonight might even offer summer opportunities for you to participate in. Other students, like a student I spoke to just a couple of days ago, have been accepted into college, but they have to start in January. That's the offer from the college, is a winter acceptance. So that means that student has 6 months of time in front of them. And that likely means that they'll be able to go and get involved with maybe 1 or 2 different experiences before they head off to school. And then lots of students choose to take between 9 and 12 months or even more of gap time. And if that feels right for you, then that's amazing. Additionally, we do think about gap year often, and we see a lot of images of gap year being in exotic places all around the world. My first gap year experience was in Tanzania, in East Africa. But there are, and if you want to go abroad, there's incredible programming all over the world, from Australia to New Zealand, Southeast Asia, all over Africa, lots of amazing programming in Europe, Central and South America, of course, the Himalayan regions. And anywhere you might be interested in going, it's likely there's gap year programming going there, as long as the area is stable and ultimately a reasonably risk-managed place to take students. But that being said, there's a tremendous amount of incredible programming right here in our own country. And we're going to hear from a couple of programs who operate almost exclusively out of the US as well. And so thinking about our country, think about where you live, where you grew up, and where would it be interesting for you to go to and maybe step out of your comfort zone. Maybe you live in an urban environment, but being in a wilderness environment would be exciting. Maybe you've had the opportunity to live on one of the coasts in the country, but you've never been in the Rockies, or you've never been into the middle of our country. Wouldn't it be amazing to see those kinds of places? And so gap year can be taken in all kinds of locations around the world. And then additionally, we often think about gap year for students who have recently graduated high school and before students go on to whatever that next chapter is. And maybe it's college, or maybe it's community college, or maybe it's right into the workforce, or maybe you're going to a trade school or the military. Whatever the path is and the destination that you're heading to, gap year becomes this bridging experience. It's a slightly more meandering journey to the destination you've identified than maybe just going straight on. But the meander is highly worthwhile, because what that journey allows you to do is take all of that amazing book learning that you've done up to this point in your life and apply it directly in a very hands-on way. All the programs we're going to talk about tonight and meet tonight are all incredibly hands-on, skill-oriented experiences. So you're going to get to take all that you've learned intellectually and put it to good use. And then you get to take all of that hands-on real-world experience that you've just had and bring it to the next educational or working-based experience that you're heading to. So again, the journey is meant to really amplify the knowledge that you've already got, and then ultimately help you with a greater degree of success when you head off to that next identified adventure chapter. Why don't we go to the next slide? When planning a gap year, there's really no right route for each person to take other than the one that's going to be uniquely right for them. And so I could say, oh, you might want to think about this, or you might consider that factor, but I'd have to actually know you personally to make those kinds of suggestions. What I can share with you is a real recipe for success in gap year planning. And it really boils down to 4 factors or 4 ingredients in that recipe. And if you were to incorporate these 4 ingredients into any of your gap year experiences, this is what we see students feeling very satisfied, feeling like they've challenged themselves and where they are highly successful. And so what are those ingredients? The first one is intention. And that was a word I used earlier to identify and define gap year. But this is not happening to you by accident, right? You're choosing to take a gap year. It's like making the choice of going to college or making the choice to go to a trade school. You're making the choice to choose gap year. So have some intention really built in to that experience. And so what we mean by that is you have to get clear on your goals and what's important to you, the places you want to grow, the places you need to grow, the skills you want to learn, the person you want to become. And those are the things that are going to help you focus in on the kinds of activities that you want. If you're here at this webinar, you're probably really excited about the idea of adventure and leadership and being in the outdoors and being really active. And so if that's one of your primary goals, that intention is going to help pave the way for you to identify the right kind of programs for you. Secondly, we really want to build in structure. Structure means that you have something positive that you're waking up every morning that you're going to be able to engage in. And that could be work, right? Working is a wonderful structural experience. There's a lot that we can take out of every single work day. We know that we're getting up and we're going there. But you also might find positivity and productivity in the idea of a structured volunteer experience or a structured internship. And certainly in a program like the programs we're going to meet tonight, the structure is built inherently into these so that not only are you challenged every single day, but you're actually finding something that you're curious about and really engaged with on a daily basis. Now, thirdly, and probably most importantly, the gap year and the gapper taking a gap year tends to flourish when there's a high quality of mentorship built into their gap year experiences. And by mentor, we mean other adults who are out there who really care about and are passionate about the experience that that gapper is having. And so again, that could be your employer. You might have an amazing boss who is really engaged in nurturing you and bringing you up into your highest self in that position. But more than likely, when we start looking at gap year-based programs, we're talking about leaders, we're talking about instructors, we're talking about professionals who are involved in making these programs happen. My instructors at Outward Bound were some of the most influential people in my life in my 20s. I'm still in touch with one of them. The other one inspired me into one of my favorite pursuits right now, which is trail running. And I followed him for many years in his career as a trail runner. And it's really amazing how these individuals, these adults who are so passionate about what they do, can really have an impact on you. So build in that level of mentorship, because that's where all of the growth really comes from. People who are willing to challenge you and encourage you to actually perform and be your best self in these experiences. And then finally, we talk a lot about the idea of the ingredient of peers. These experiences are meant to be challenging. They're meant to get you out of your comfort zone and maybe into your stretch space. These experiences may have some level of adversity built in right alongside all of the fun. And that's the point of all of this. It's to dance on that growth edge where you have a high degree and probability of being successful, but it might not always be graceful. And so it's really good to surround yourself with other people who are in that same life chapter. And that often case for many gappers is people who are 18 to 25. You're in luck because all the programs that we're going to speak with tonight all build in this amazing level of intention. They have a high degree of structure. They have an incredible level of mentorship, and they're based for people your age. They're made for gap year-based students. So you're in the right place if you're looking for that in the adventure and wilderness leadership context. Last slide, please, Drew. If I can be a support to you, again, Jane and I are accredited Gap Year consultants. We'd be really happy to help you out. Of course, we offer free exploratory brainstorming sessions. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask those at the end tonight. Thanks so much for taking the time to be here. And I can't wait to hear from some of our colleagues in the field in just a moment. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Jason, for that fantastic introduction to gap years and for that hair-raising story about bivvying on that rock climbing experience. Next up, I'm excited to welcome our first provider. We have Yanitza from HMI.
Hello, can you guys see me? I don't think you can. Let me see what's going on. Can everybody hear me? Okay, can everybody hear me now? Perfect. So my name is Yanitza Rodriguez, and I am with the High Mountain Institute, shortened as HMI. And I'm excited to talk to you guys about some of our programming, and I'm excited for you guys to hear also from our other colleagues on different types of programming as well. But I'm here to talk to you about what we do. So we are an outdoor education school, and we pride ourselves on uniting, adventure with an aspect of conservation, environmental service in the outdoors. We currently run 3 programs, and each program is a gap semester. So they're around 80 days long, and we run programs in both the fall and spring semester. For our fall semester programming, we have the Rock program, the Traverse program, and the Trek program. The Rock program is really focused on rock climbing, and this one is a domestic and international based program. So you'd get the chance to climb a little bit in Utah, Colorado, and then you'd spend the last month of the program in Patagonia on the Chilean side. And then we have our Traverse program, which is a mix of all of these skills. You get some backpacking, you get some whitewater rafting, and you also get some rock climbing. And this is a domestic-based program, which is based in Colorado, Utah, and Arizona. And lastly, we have our Trek semester, which is more of a backpacking focused program. And this one is also international and domestic base. So you would be backpacking in Colorado, Utah, and then also spending that last month in Patagonia on the Chilean side. Something that we do offer is financial aid. So tuition is $17,490. I say that number, and sometimes I think back when I was graduating high school, that would not have been attainable for me. And so I encourage families, I encourage students to please apply for financial aid. Do not let money be something that discourages you from doing something really awesome, especially a meaningful gap experience. So we do offer financial aid, and some of our full financial aid recipients, they have the cost of tuition covered, as well as flights and even gear. So really, they just get to show up and do this awesome program for a semester. We do offer optional college credits. So you would be getting up to three college credits, and they're all environmental studies based credits. You're with small cohorts of students. So you would be with 8 to 10 other kiddos. Usually after that, we will waitlist just to keep these groups small and intentional. And you'll have 2 to 3 instructors per each cohort. Now, the course is around 80 days long, and we are, an outdoor intensive program. And the reality is you will get to be outside for 70 out of those 80 days. Drew, if you would like, could you go ahead and push that video for you guys to just have a better overview of us?
HMI GAP is the High Mountain Institute's GAP program for students who are in between high school and college, who want kind of a different outdoor experience instead of the more typical high school to college path.
I just kept thinking to myself, man, 3 months is not enough time to turn around from high school to college.
I sought a program to just introduce me to 3 months of firsts, and I've really gotten that, and it feels really freeing. Learning to ski and rock climb and backpack for the first time, and doing it in such a supportive and excited community.
At HMI Gap, we have 3 different types of semesters: a trek semester, a rock semester, and a traverse semester. The trek semester is primarily backpacking focused, the rock semester is primarily rock climbing focused, and the traverse semester is a mix of rock climbing and backpacking. And all these semesters take place here in the American West as well as in Chile and Patagonia.
It's like a crazy thing to just put that pack on and just walk.
I had never been backpacking before, and it was one of the best times of my life. I loved it.
Even in the hard parts of like our first expedition, I was always just like really proud of myself.
I think that it's been kind of one of the most empowering experiences I've ever had.
The climbing, the backpacking, the skiing, I think those are vehicles for facilitating the group dynamics that we are super proud of. I think that is what makes these programs so special.
HMI! Woo!
The desert's been really amazing because it's a completely different landscape. I'm used to lots of trees and lots of rivers, a much greener East Coast, and you feel so small surrounded by all this rock and sand, and it's just really magnificent.
HMI has a really incredible programming that encourages leadership building and community especially.
Get to explore yourself in the wilderness. There's nothing better than being out here.
You find this vulnerability with these people that I don't think you would get in any other setting. Something so special about when it's dark and you're looking up at the stars and you can't really see each other's faces, but you feel each other's presence, and you're just talking about things that make you afraid, and it's just things that you would never talk about with other people in a setting that you would never get, and you're kind of opening your heart to people you just met a week ago.
Everyone in the group is kind of in a similar place where we all want to empower each other to be the best versions of ourselves.
Students are inclusive and fun-loving and goofy, and I think we provide an opportunity for everybody to be their authentic selves. The growth that I see in our students has a lot to do with willingness to take risks and to gauge what appropriate risks are, willing to put yourself out there and try something, and willing to fail forward in this really growth-oriented way.
They encourage us to, reevaluate our own personal land ethic and relationship to nature and how humans interact with nature and what's ethical and what's not.
The instructors at HMI are all really helpful because they are willing to help you wherever you're coming from.
I think a gap year, and specifically HMI Gap, is one of the best decisions I've ever made. Coming here to take time for myself, to grow myself before kind of starting an entirely new chapter in my life.
It's definitely once in a lifetime opportunity. A lot of unique things I learned here and have been through here that are really going to impact a lot of the way I see things in the rest of my life.
I wish that this is how I had learned all through high school.
All right, well, that was just a wonderful overview of our programming, and I'm excited for you all to hear from the rest of the programs, but I know we'll have time at the end to answer questions. And I'll also drop my contact information in the chat should you want to reach out for any more information. Thank you guys for listening, and I'm so excited for you guys to continue hearing from the other programs.
Thank you so much, Yunitza. That was fantastic, especially that video really makes me want to go and spend the next couple months rock climbing and backpacking. I did want to ask real quickly one question that I have and some others may have. Is there anything in place to make sure that students have a meaningful gap experience with HMI?
Absolutely. We don't want you to just come for 80 days and spend it outdoors without any meaning to your gap experience. And so something that I think we do really well is we actually started out as an outdoor school back in '95, and it was a semester, it is still in existence, a semester school for high school students to come to Colorado and study in Colorado for a whole semester. And so because we started out as a school, I think we're really good at the environmental studies aspect in our program, right? You're coming outside, you're doing all of these really wonderful things, rock climbing, backpacking, camping, but we also take time to really recognize the environmental studies aspect. And it really looks like place-based education. So just making meaning of where you are, whether you're in the deserts of Arizona and you're learning about what water conservation looks like there, or you are doing a conservation project while you're not on an expedition. So we have these things in place to make sure that you have a meaningful gap experience. And I say, just because we started out as a school, we are so strong in that environmental studies aspect, right? Having these things in place, place-based education for you to make meaning of where you are and where you're camping and where you are for 80 days. And I think another thing is touching on that conservation aspect is we are really mindful of being in the outdoors in a conservative way, right? So we follow no trace, making sure that we don't leave anything behind and we are respectful and mindful of the natural world. Yeah.
Thank you, Yanitza. That makes a lot of sense. Next up, we'll hear from Amber from Pacific Discovery.
Hey y'all. I hope you can hear me. I'm sure you can hear me and see me. My name is Amber Latimer. I use she, her pronouns, and I work at Pacific Discovery as our director of recruitment. Just want to say thank you, Drew, so much. Thank you to Go Overseas for putting this on. And thank you to Jason and J2 for that incredibly rich introduction of a gap year. It's so good to be here with the rest of the panelists. I've got a few minutes here, so I'm going to do my best to sum up what we offer at Pacific Discovery in that time. But if you've got questions, pop them in and we can chat as we go. And then I've got a video that Drew's going to bring up for us shortly after this. But the overview on Pacific Discovery. So we are an organization based in New Zealand, and we've been running programs since 2001. And we are really focused on outdoor adventure and sustainability, what you're here to dive deep into. Our programs, they're quite holistic in design. So we offer a little bit more than just those two components, but I'll talk more about that in a bit. But yeah, so what we take small groups of students, usually between anywhere from 10 to 13, along with 2 instructors on epic, experientially based journeys to some of the most beautiful parts in the world. What you're looking at there, those 3 columns, is the bulk of what we offer. So we've got in the middle, you'll see 10-week semester programs. Those take place in the fall and or in the spring. And then, oh, sorry, one second here. Okay, sorry. Yes, so we've got our fall semester that usually runs anywhere from the beginning of September to around Thanksgiving. And then in the spring, our programs start early February and end around mid-April. On the left, what you're looking at is our 6-week mini-mesters. So those are a really good for folks who might not want to take the leap of being away for a whole 2.5, 3 months. And you can see the destinations that we offer. And then on the right is our 2 to 4 week summer programs. You can see the locations listed there, but basically our area of expertise, being based in New Zealand, is the South Pacific. So Australia, New Zealand, Fiji, Bali. We run a domestic program in Hawaii. But in addition to that, you can see we're all over the world. So we've got programs taking place in Central and South America. We are in Southeast Asia. We go to Nepal and India. And then on the top there's 2 feature programs that take place just in New Zealand, but I'll come back to that if we've got enough time. So you're probably thinking like, okay, so we go to all of these, like I have the choice to go to any of these locations, but what does it actually look like whilst on program? So on the right, what you're looking at is our program design. So we have these 6 core components that are going to be included on any single program, regardless of where you want to travel or how long you want to travel. So in addition to the outdoor exploration and the sustainability piece, we're also really keen on cultural immersion and service learning. We say we're educational and not academic. And then one of the biggest areas on all of our program is the personal leadership development. So you get a lot of everything. And then I do also want to mention that if you're quite keen on one or two of those components, certain programs are weighted a little bit more heavily in certain areas. So you being here today for the outdoor exploration and really keen on sustainability, we've got certain programs that maybe we could guide you towards that are going to be a little bit more focused on that. Two of those being the ones that I've got listed at the top there, Teharanga and Rewilding. But yes, our admissions folks would talk you through what that is going to look like. What Jason mentioned about mentorship and really digging deep into oneself is really, really important and a huge part of any Pacific Discovery program. So like I mentioned at the onset, you're going to be with two instructors and they're going to be walking y'all through like a core curriculum. So that can be on themes like identity, personal values, empathy, communication, leadership. So looking at some of those softer skills that one might not always get in a high school experience. I did want to mention that we offer scholarships and we do have the option to opt into college credit if that's something that folks are interested in. We partner with 2 universities that you can get in touch with us about and see how you can gain course credit sequentially whilst on program if maintaining your academics is something that's important to you during your gap time. Okay, let me chat briefly about our Teharanga program and rewilding, and then we'll jump into a video. I'm a visual person, so we'll get that going shortly. So what you're looking at in the top left corner there is 2 new feature programs that we are offering that take place in New Zealand the entirety of the 10 weeks. So they're a little bit different than our 10-week programs where they're overland journeys. But these I wanted to feature for you guys because they are huge on outdoor exploration and sustainability. So Teharanga in Maori, and for those of you who might not know what the Maori are, they're the first peoples or the native people of New Zealand. Teharanga translates to the journey. So this is going to be focused on journeys over water and marine and freshwater conservation. So it's going to be for students who are passionate about anything and everything related to water. From marine conservation and water testing to learning to captain your own ship with your group. There's a 5-day paddle down the Whanganui River. So you're doing a canoe expedition. You're learning to surf in the small town of Raglan. So there's lots going on in Teharanga. And then rewilding is really cool. So that includes students coming down to our conservation center and you're staying in yurts, so kind of glamping the majority of your time. And it's really focused on homesteading and wilderness conservation. So if you're someone who's excited about getting involved in creative climate solutions, maybe you're wanting to detox from the ruckus of society and just spend a lot of time in nature, or you're looking to enjoy space to just run free, cultivate connections, create with your hands. We do lots of farm to table and foraging on this program. And again, a really deep dive into the Maori culture. But with that, I will ask Drew to play our video and look forward to chatting with y'all later.
I wanted to have a study abroad experience where I am so immersed in the culture because I really think that is what studying abroad should be.
Traveling abroad, studying different cultures, I feel like you really get a sense of what's important to you.
I only had a certain amount of time to travel. I wanted to do it right.
Why not have the opportunity to meet new people in a small group and very interesting instructors that will have a lot of knowledge to offer you.
On a college campus, you're going there with a major in mind and you've tunnel-sighted your future.
Not only are we learning about ourselves, but we're learning about how we interact with those around us.
Learning how to be compassionate and empathetic.
Seeing things for yourself, really experiencing them in a way that you only can on a program like Pacific Discovery is just worlds different and worlds better.
Experiential learning impacts you more. It's your own experience and you take it into your own life.
Studying the other cultures, studying how people live, and experiencing so much that helps you not only grow educationally, but personally as well.
You learn so much so fast. You learn the language, you learn the culture, you learn how to interact with people not like you, you learn how to make new friends fast.
You reap more from being a part of a group than you would just being completely by yourself.
It's really awesome when you get such a diverse group of people. It creates a really interesting environment where you can learn from each other. This time with Pacific Discovery has definitely influenced me.
These past months of traveling have definitely allowed me to realize the potential of my dreams.
I feel myself growing and changing.
I've grown a lot as a person. I feel so much more educated and well-rounded. I just strongly encourage everybody to take this opportunity to go out of your comfort zone and just go for it.
Take that first step and do something that you didn't think that you could.
All right, thanks so much for all of that, Amber. That video, as well as the last one, really makes me just want to pack my bags and head out to the Pacific right now. I'm gonna pass it over now to Will from Wilderness Adventures, our final program of the night. I'll get the screen back up and going.
Sweet. Thanks so much, Drew. Welcome, everyone. Thanks, Jason, and Go Overseas. This is an incredible opportunity to kind of talk about gap years and all these amazing programs. So I'm coming to you live from with Wilderness Adventures. Just a little bit about myself. My name is Will. I work as a regional coordinator and a logistics coordinator for our gap semester, as well as some of our other regions. And these gap years are truly pretty amazing. I've had the pleasure to be a trip leader for these gap semesters. I've led our fall semesters we'll talk to you about. I've led our summer semester as well as our Southwest semester. So I can really speak to you from a leader aspect, as well as kind of what life is really like on a Wilderness Adventures gap semester. But, first things first, when we talk about a gap year, we're looking for something meaningful, right? And it's intentional, like Jason said. So when you come with Wilderness Adventures, we offer, we've been around for 50 years, which has been incredible. We have permits all over the world, and we really have a high level of programming when it comes to kind of that outdoor adventure-based program. So like some of the other programs you've heard, we are primarily wilderness-based. We're strictly domestic. So, in the Southwest, 2 programs in the Rockies, as well as in the Pacific Northwest. So you're sleeping in tents, you're out there learning a lot of these different skills. And I think something that really sets us apart from all of these other organizations or some of the other gap years that you might see is kind of the variety in activity. We focus on primarily backpacking, canoeing, sea kayaking, whitewater rafting, mountaineering. With a Wilderness Adventures gap semester, you're going to be able to kind of get a lot of these intro skills and be able to kind of go into the backcountry for about 5 to 7 days and then come out and kind of reevaluate, debrief some of these skills. And it's truly an amazing time. If you're looking for college credit, we do have optional academic credit through the University of Wyoming. We offer 6 college credits. And so if you're interested in that, I'm happy to answer more questions about that after this. But 2 additional things that you'll find on any one of our semesters are some professional certifications and trainings throughout these semesters. So
when it comes to all of our semesters, our students will be going through a wilderness first responder and CPR and first aid certification. So it's typically a 7-day course built in within the program. And it's an amazing opportunity for our students to kind of build their confidence and have something to add to their resume. If they're looking to get into guiding or they're looking to get into any of the outdoor rec, career paths, this is an amazing opportunity for them to kind of really hone in those skills and learn firsthand from professional instructors. It's always a huge highlight with all of our students who go through these. Another certification and training that we typically have on our GAP semesters is a swiftwater rescue certification. So, there's always a whitewater component with these semesters, and they're really able to kind of learn what it's like to have a swiftwater rescue certification, learning mechanical advantages, learning how to read whitewater, and really being able to explore a lot of these really unique rivers kind of around the West. So that's another amazing opportunity with Wilderness Adventures here. Like you mentioned, or like some of these other programs mentioned, they're very similar in style. So, you'll have 2 to 3 instructors typically on the trip. You might have anywhere from 6 to 12 students with you. They're small and inclusive group setting, really allows for that intentional time to be able to kind of foster a cohort who's passionate about all of the things that you're learning. You're following that outdoor education curriculum, and you're really building that community. Not only are we educational, but, we know how to have fun. And I think that's something super important, when it comes to taking that gap year. You're looking for something that's going to be really meaningful. And, the relationships that you build amongst the Wilderness Adventures Leadership Institute gap semester is, you'll never forget it. You're going to have that foundation for an outdoor rec community, which is amazing. And the last thing we kind of offer is some internship opportunities. So, we have unique internship opportunities, whether it's and specifically with our summer semester, you're able to spend 5 days on another local program. So we offer, a ton of different summer programs. So, you as a summer gap student will be able to go locally right here around Yellowstone and the Tetons. I'm calling in from Jackson. So you're able to head out with your groups and kind of learn all the skills of what it's like to be a trip leader, which is, I think, super valuable. And if you're looking for that practicum experience, this is right up your alley. So the internship opportunity is truly an amazing experience, and something that a lot of our students walk away feeling, more confident. They're more self-aware, and they're able to really demonstrate their leadership skills that they've learned throughout the semester. So that's a little bit about our semesters. They're 70 days in length. As you can see on the left-hand side of the screen, we have our spring Southwest semester. It's running in February, arriving in San Antonio and departing out of Salt Lake City. We have our summer semester coming up June 7th to July 18th. That one's about 42 days in length, as opposed to all of the other semesters, which are typically around 70 days in length. And then 2 fall semesters. We have our fall Rockies and our fall Pacific Northwest semester. When it comes to these activities, like I said, when it comes to these GAP programs, you'll be backpacking, you're getting your wilderness first responder course, you'll do a little bit of whitewater rafting, you'll do some whitewater kayaking, and then of course you have your capstone presentation. So, along with our partnership with University of Wyoming, we have that educational piece throughout the program. And then at the end of the course, all of our students are giving kind of a field-based capstone presentation on something that they're passionate about. And it's truly an amazing educational experience, as well as kind of that place-based learning on some of these places, on all these programs. So without further ado, I'd like to hear from one of our students. Drew, I just shared a YouTube link with Drew. Drew, if you can cue that YouTube video, we can hear from one of our gap year alumni, Kyla Walker, and her experience on a semester with us.
Hi, I'm Kyla. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. This gap semester has meant a lot to me. I found myself again. Before this, I have gone through a series of finding myself, but I feel like through this trip I am so much happier, and being away from my phone and just being in nature has brought me to myself again. I feel more myself than I have in a really, really long time. My favorite day so far has been the 10-mile hike, I got to lead it, and it was really empowering to like know that I'm capable of not only doing a 10-mile hike, but leading like my peers and trip leaders. It just made me realize that I am capable of doing anything if I put my mind to it. So I think that was one of my favorite days for sure. There's so much time to find like what you want to do in life, and this trip has definitely helped push me in the right direction. I love the friendships I've made. I love the community aspect. Yeah, I will never forget this trip.
All right, thank you so much, Will, for that video and that wonderful introduction to the WALI program and Wilderness Adventure. Thank you to all of our providers for their lovely introductions to their programs. We're a little short on time, but I did want to switch over to a quick Q&A just to make sure that we get a couple questions fielded. If you do have any questions, you can drop that in the Q&A on the right side of your screen. I did want to pull up one quick question that I did see in the chat, and I'll open this up to any of our panelists this evening. And that is that given that a lot of these young people have lived through the stresses of COVID and mental health, how do you handle anything that comes up where a student might need to take a little extra support to operate successfully? And what adjustments have been made to give the teens and participants a little bit more help, especially those with disabilities, to participate? If anyone would like to participate.
I could speak to our program in particular, but what I'm imagining would be most helpful would be Jason taking this one and just giving the overarching wisdom, but happy to circle back to us. I know we're short on time.
I'll be really brief. You're so sweet, Amber. Thanks for that pass. I think one of the things that we're all aware of right now in the realm of programming and working with young adults is that though we were all worried about the seniors in 2020 who were missing graduation and prom, it truly is those graduating in 2022 and 2023 that have been hit really profoundly by the effects of COVID, including anxiety, depression, and a slew of other mental health challenges. Lots of adults are feeling it too. It's not just the young adults, but certainly a lot of young adults are feeling that. And programs have had to adapt. I think each of these programs should speak on their own to that, but we're watching programs really adapt the pacing of programming as well as kind of the rate of challenge, having more frequent check-ins with students, and really trying to work with families as best they can. Some of these programs are quite remote, as you all have heard and seen tonight, but really trying to support students as much as possible in the field. And a lot of that comes down to actually doing really great screenings in advance. One of the things that Jane and I say to students that we work with, and we like literally hit them over the head with this, is that transparency in advance of being accepted to a program is really critical. Every single program is going to have an intake and ask you about your medical and mental health history, and you should truly be honest about it. This is not meant to weed you out. It's not meant to keep you from participating. Programs need to know if they can truly support you on program. And when things come out, when you're on a program that programs didn't know about, in some cases that can be grounds for dismissal. So there's just that, but that's neither here nor there. What's most important is programs might actually not have had the resources on hand to be able to support you. So please let these programs do their jobs, assess for themselves. They know their risk management protocols the best. And so please let them do that. And if they're not able to support you, it's very likely they might have another program that could be a better fit. So again, just because you take anxiety for medication, don't think you're going to be kept from participating in a program, or just because you're a student who maybe, I saw part of this in the question, who has a disability, don't let that count you out. Let these programs actually have a chance to speak for themselves and ultimately see how they might be able to adapt and support you, because that's what they want to do. They want to support everyone. So I want to just pause there.
Great. Well, thanks so much for taking a stab at that, Jason. A very important question to be addressed, and I'm glad that we made a couple minutes for that. With that, though, we do need to wrap up our program at this time. So I want to give a huge thank you to all of our participants tonight for talking a little bit about their programs, as well as you, the audience, for coming and spending your Tuesday night with us. If you would like to revisit any parts of these programs, you can catch this recording on YouTube. You'll be sent a link, and you can also get in contact with any of these representatives here tonight. They've all dropped their information in the chat, so you can grab that and continue with your next steps. Thank you all so much, and have a good night.